The following is a conversation with Niall O'Connor. As well as being a valued friend of the Training 1-to-1 leadership team, Niall is the founder of Financial Planning Matters Limited, the official sponsor of the Training 1-to-1 podcast. As well as being a certified financial planner, Niall also holds a UEFA B licence and has coached previously at Shamrock Rovers and UCD AFC. He is here with us today to offer practical, free advice for financial planning, investments, and anything to do with your financial wellness. We hope you enjoy.
Let's go. Welcome, Niall.
Thank you, sir.
It's fantastic to have you.
Thank you very much.
It's long overdue, may I add. Oh my God, you're a hard man to get a hold of. You're only back from where? I didn't know about this. Where were you?
Well, Leicester Celtic had a trip to Liverpool/Manchester. Saw the great Erling Haaland scored a double. Not in the game for 75 minutes. Scores 2 in 10 minutes. Man the match.
Jokester.
Walks off and go again next week.
Honestly, silly, isn't he?
Yeah.
Good to watch in person.
Yeah, he does a lot of work off the ball. Mm-hmm. He's really aggressive. But I would say is he's like, you give him half an inch. Like there's no, like it's just he punches. The second goal, I don't know if anyone saw the second goal, but the ball's played in from Kevin De Bruyne. He's on the run and he just brushes off the centre back as if he's a 8-year-old.
Ridiculous. As soon as the second ball drops, see his movement, the arc. He doesn't even look at the ball. No. As soon as it hits De Bruyne, he's like, I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah. Just pass it into the back of the
net. Go on, give us it. Anyway, joke. Right, let's get into it.
Yeah. I think as all the regular listeners know, because I've name dropped you about 101 times, Niall and Financial Planning Matters are the actual official sponsors of the Training 1-to-1 podcast. Yeah. So I think it is a long overdue podcast, and definitely just a massive thank you from ourselves and the community as well. Look, I think working with you personally over the last few years has definitely changed my life, if I'm being honest with you. It's not just like a short-term benefit, like everything to do with financial management, anything to do with your financial wellness is a long-term play. And I think it's very important that in the most condensed form, I suppose, with a podcast, that we can get across some really valuable information today. And I think really kicking off from the great Morgan Housel, which is a book that you recommended to me, The Psychology of Money. I looked over my notes again of the main quotes. So I thought it was cool to bring that back. So this is one of the main things that Morgan Housel said in his book, The Psychology of Money, in case anybody's wondering. But doing well with money isn't necessarily about what you know, it's about how you behave. And behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. So I think really kicking us off, in your experience, what would you say are the main handful of good behaviors and bad behaviors that you've seen in financial wellness? And you can really kick this off with an introduction to your background and your history with where you are today.
Yeah, well, I suppose the importance of, I suppose, anything is having some sort of goal or plan. So whether it's money, whether it's football, whether it's training, whether it's personal development, is knowing where you want to get to, and sort of looking how you're going to get there in the period of time it's going to take. So for me, like I started off when college, went and did a sort of a postgraduate sort of course in relation to running a business. So Enterprise Rent-A-Car ran a graduate program. I suppose that sort of empowered me to be able to sort of run a business from 20 years of age, looking after customers, looking after staff, training people, sales, marketing, collecting money, managing a fleet of probably 2-3 million of cars, which was, for me, wasn't about the value of the cars or what we did. It was more about bringing it all together because it worked. So you have to have a good team behind you, in essence, to be able to be successful landing. So I suppose the first part would be is making sure you understand where you want to get to, and I suppose the goal behind it and the steps you need to get there over time. So ultimately, I started in that. Then I went on to Irish Life. I was very lucky in Irish Life. I had an incredible manager starting off. They have a brilliant sort of educational program, so you get exposure to different parts of the business. So anything from pensions, investments, mortgages, to marketing, to sales. So I was heavily involved in different areas of the business from early on. And then ultimately, the manager that came in saw probably something in 2 or 3 of us, because it was in a big age gap in the industry. Like, it was probably insurance men back in the day, for the older listeners, where people collected money from the door. I was given Clondalkin and Tala as the area. At the time, I was coaching in Shamrock Rovers. So I was probably quite fortunate. I would have known a lot of kids from the area, because we'd only up and running when Shane Robinson and Stephen Bradley set up the academy back in the Spa days, way before Roadstone.
Oh,
But
yeah.
ultimately, I would have known because Stephen's from that area and a lot of coaches up there. So probably my network, I would say to you, Gary, your network is your net worth. So it comes over a long period of time. It's not, you don't know when you're going to meet the person that you met from school, from college, from play school. But ultimately keeping in touch with those people, because at different stage of life, they'll touch you in different ways. And it's ultimately making sure, one, you treat them properly, but two, is you stay in contact. I suppose the reason why we're here is you set up a fantastic educational page, Training 1-to-1. It's the same me. When I moved on from Irish Life, I set up 2 businesses, Financial Planning Matters, and I set up beatthebank.ie. I suppose the main reason I set both of them up is because I saw and took pieces of the jigsaw of my experience and my working life from people that I'd met that done things really well, and places I'd worked in that didn't do things quite well, and sort of gaps that I could sort of enhance or solve issues that people was a bugbear for a lot of people, but ultimately make the journey easier or make the content more digestible so people could sort of resonate with what we do. And mightn't be this year, might be next year, but they'll remember us for something that we said or did over a period of time. So like, this is my 5th year in business. I was quite fortunate in Irish Life that in 2006 and 7 I was looking after a lot of the tech companies. So obviously down the docks you had the Facebooks of this world, or the Meta now, you had LinkedIn and lots of companies down there, and they were probably the first, I'd say the first industry, apart from maybe pharma, that saw the bigger picture in relation to employee benefits and wellness, like things like, you know, pensions, investments, mortgages, people coming in and talking about wellness, what tax credits. People come from different countries. So from Meta, for example, would have people from loads of different countries working under one roof, but wouldn't necessarily know what the rules are in relation to when you pay 20% tax, when you pay 40% tax. Should it be investing? Should it be saving? What's an emergency fund? All these buzzwords that people heard, but didn't really resonate with them, because I think sometimes people think that you have to be rich to be engaging with a financial planner. I would say it's probably the opposite. If you don't understand the basics of a financial plan or what financial planning is, that could be starting with €50 a week or €50 a month. But ultimately knowing what your goal is and what your objective is and what time frame it is, and we sort of educate people to make better decisions over a period of time. So for me, it's the job is like, I love what I do, because every day I meet someone. Like obviously I could be meeting you one day, I could be meeting someone as a business owner, but like we look after a lot of money for a lot of different people. But I suppose the best part of it is people buy into what you do. And I always say to people, the guarantee I give them is, if you take my advice, what we're doing is we're giving you the opportunity to be able to make better decisions for you and your family, so the future you thanks you for taking our advice. So ultimately you can go to anywhere to get advice in Ireland, and it's easier now, as you probably know, because of your age versus me, is that you can go on social media, you can go on YouTube, there's lots of formats in relation to LinkedIn and places like that. But sometimes the content isn't relevant or doesn't resonate with that person, because everyone's journey is different. So for me, I'm quite fortunate that, again, being involved with UCD, being involved, like excellent, that their motto for me that says it all, like it's excellent through sports and education. Like I was quite fortunate to have 2 good parents that educated me properly to make better decisions for me. But ultimately, like, we've coached good kids, we've coached kids that are going to go on to have good careers, whether it's football or it's going to be in university or it's going to be in a job where they run their own business. We've coached a lot of kids that necessarily won't be footballers, but be well-rounded people. As the same, I moved on to Shamrock Rovers, met a huge amount of good people there, lots of really talented footballers, lots of great parents. And I suppose I'm still in there now. I look after the first team, I look after the manager in relation to financial planning. But that was 20 years ago, because when he came back from England, he needed someone to look after his plan, because his plan changed. His plan was to be a professional footballer. Didn't work out the way he wanted to be, but he knew, and he's a smart man, he wanted to know, well, I want to make sure I take control of my future, my family. I need to educate myself. So sort of challenged me about questions he had, and it's the same with, like, he's transferring onto the players now and saying, listen, I want you to come in, I want you to talk to the players. Why? Because I want them on their 18, 19, 20. They don't have to go to England now till maybe later in life, but ultimately they're well-rounded people going there. But surround yourself with good people on the journey.
Yeah, great intro. And like you touched on something important there. You don't need to be rich to get good financial wellness. And from what I've experienced so far, I'm only 28 now though, is that the behaviors of when you have, let's say, a part-time salary versus what you have if you were making millions of euro a week or a year, in your opinion, do the behaviors change from when you are, let's say, lower income versus higher income as you course through life?
Absolutely not. I said, if you've good habits from an early stage in life, is no matter if you earn €1,000 a week or 10 million a year, it doesn't make any difference to me. Knowing what I know now for the last 20 years, I'd meet people who are straight out of college or people who are selling businesses. They still have the same skill sets or same sort of mannerisms or same outlook in life, because ultimately they have taken decisions. They're not successful now because of what's happened the last couple of weeks or couple of years. It's because of decisions they made in their early 20s or early 30s that put them in the place they are becoming to us. I suppose we help them on a journey to get there, but ultimately I'd say to you is you have to early on in life understand what's important to you. And the frustration I have is in school is I wasn't educated in relation to anything to do with a financial plan or personal financial development, or where do you go to learn this stuff. I did an undergrad. It was economics. It was negotiation. It was financial maths. It was accounting. But like they're not relevant to a lot of the situations. When your salary comes in every month, how do you deploy it? What should I be considering? What age I am now? What's important to me? If I'm looking for a mortgage, for example, a lot of people say to me, mortgage, I'm looking to get a mortgage. I say to you, well, that starts now. It's 5 years' time before you're going to get a mortgage, because you have to show capacity for a payment. What does that mean? You have to show that you have a regular savings sort of habit. You have to know what you're going to be qualified for. That's a plan, but just it's a different plan for that person versus a plan if I'm talking to a couple that have 3 kids and they're looking for what happens if something happens to one of us. What should I be considering now? So, and then educational funding, because I suppose one big thing, as I said to you just before we kicked off, is like I work with a guy, an incredible fella who runs an Instagram page, school teacher called Kieran, Crazy House Prices. And ultimately he came to me 2 or 3 years ago about the amount of questions he gets in relation to the lack of education or understanding in relation to what people should be considering at their juncture in life. And ultimately he can't give them the answers, but he wanted someone to help him to be able to educate his followers. And ultimately it's probably mushroomed into a lot bigger than I thought it was, because like they're so loyal, they're all in the same boat in the sense of mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s, starting their journey in life in relation to their first time obviously a buyer process. He's been through it. He tells his story, which is a phenomenal story. But ultimately, people resonate with his story because the frustration in the country is obviously lack of housing, the change in the rules, interest rates, inflation. People, all these words that people don't really understand because they're too busy running their own lives. And he makes it easy to understand. And I suppose I'm sort of piggybacking on the back and trying to help him to develop content to educate people at their stage in life so they make good decisions for their futures. So it works really well in that space for me. But back to, I suppose, what you asked me is, no matter you earn 500,000 a month or 10,000 a month, it's actually irrelevant, because once you have a good habit, it will lead to a positive outcome. But it has to start in your early 20s, maybe maximum, I'd say late 30s, early 40s, is if you don't have the education then, it's the time frame is sort of running out in relation to certain things, but also is the risks involved. So if I give you one example, is like the good side of jobs is educating people, all the fluffy stuff and building financial plans and having positive outcomes, and this is what's going to look like. But like Google Maps, the plans changed, crashes happen. You have to go off route, you have to come back on. That could be an illness, that could be a death in the family, that could be a loss of a job. I always say to people, when we build a plan, the plan is only accurate today. I am absolutely guarantee it's going to change, because you don't know what's going to happen in a year's time, 2 years' time. But the most important thing is we I suppose review it every year to make sure you're still on the same journey as where you wanted to get to. It might be deviating, but it's about getting you back on track to make sure you understand what you need to consider. Because the last thing you want is to get to 60, 65 and have not made the right decisions, or more importantly, something happens in between that where ill health kicks in, or something happens in your family which completely blows the plan apart because you haven't planned correctly. And it's like if anyone sees our site, you'll see we built a jigsaw of a house. And it's like a house, because people love the whole analogy of how to own your own property here, is if you don't have a solid foundation, unfortunately what happens is the house will fall apart. So if you don't, it's right having the right piece of jigsaw early on in life to be able to build on top of that, which is from my role is educating people to make better decisions for themselves, so the future you thanks you for it.
Yeah, I would say that's really, in a nutshell, the ideal scenario of, regardless, because that was one hiccup that I had early on, was I didn't think I was making enough income to make good, like, long-term decisions. But even looking back on, like, when I started with you, let's say in 2019, I was even looking at like a couple of the funds that you set up for me, and it's, when you look at like the curve go positively, it was just a case of, it was always the same habits, just a couple, like, let's say, like, you might get additional income as you get older, and that's typically what does happen as people get older. Income increases, but nothing has changed, like behaviors wise. As long as I got educated early from you, and I was able to set exactly what's going out of my account each week. That's fixed. What's disposable? What has to go to savings? And I was conscious originally of like getting straight into like growing the money. But I think originally when you and the team were like, no, hold on a minute, like what happens if hits the fan? Do you actually have cash that's liquid? Is creating an emergency fund the first step to really get in that wellness aspect?
I would say to you, like it's an important thing, but it all depends on the personal circumstance of the person. So if you're at home and you're renting with your parents, is it important as someone was renting and from a foreign country? No, it's not as important. But it is the starting point is that you should have some cash set aside that's not for investment, but is purely for the emergency that might or might not happen. So for example, car outside, something happens to the engine, NCT comes back and there's a couple of problems we fix and it's 1700 euro, half its labour, but this has to be done, otherwise you can't get to work because you have to drive the car. So things like that will happen. The dishwasher breaks if you're a family and you own your own property or you're renting a place and the rent goes up. So you have to sort of plan for these things, but they're intangible, like a pension and retirement, and sort of intangible for a lot of people. People don't resonate when they're 20s. They're going, geez, they're only for old people. But it's like genuinely, if you put the building blocks in place early in life, ultimately what happens is it's the time frame dictates the advice. And I suppose it's like what I said to you before is about the probably the challenge I have at the moment is a lot of people have access to lots of content, and unfortunately sometimes they think they can do a better job than what we're trying to educate them. So I'll give you an example. So Revolut and these like Coinbase and all these places that have these fantastic flashy apps, right, where you can go and buy stocks and you can go and buy all that sort of stuff. But ultimately is like people become their own fund managers and think they can outperform the market. It's physically impossible to outperform the market consistently because the human, as you know from Morgan Housel, is like your human brain gets involved. There's herd mentality where people follow other people. They watch content, like crypto is a big thing for young people. I say, that's great, yeah, but like, okay, maybe have some exposure, but like it is extremely risky, unregulated. It might be an asset class in 10 years' time, but it shouldn't be the crux of you deciding to invest, because ultimately what happens is, I see people, especially with COVID, stocks went through the roof. People think this is amazing, this is going to happen. What happened after that? I'll give you one stock, for example. DocuSign fell by 85% the following year. If you're holding that stock and it's fallen by 85% a year, it's going to be a very long time before you're going to see your money come back. But people don't have the patience to wait anymore. So I suppose my job really, it's back to this is why I get involved in partnerships with yourselves and other like Shamrock Rovers and UCD, and the reason why I do it is because sport and education is intertwined. If you make good decisions on the pitch, like I feel like sometimes I'm a coach and the person's on the pitch far more talented than I was, but on the pitch at a much higher level. But if we educate them and do the right things during the week, when they go on the pitch, they can solve the problems. So back to your suppose when you came to me and asking me about like what should I be doing, should I be investing in this and that, I said, well, what you should be doing is buy the haystack, don't look for the needle. What does that mean? That means like instead of going out and looking for the one-legged Eskimo or the stock that's going to perform really well, like I'm not the oracle. There's no one out there that can tell you that something's going to go through the roof for the next 20 years because the market is efficient. Things will happen, but why not just buy the whole market and get consistent return over a longer period of time versus trying to find the winners all the time, which ultimately leads to you losing money over a long period of time because ultimately you cannot time the market. So as I said to you before, I suppose the analogy I use with all, especially young parents, come to us for educational plans. So we would have been, at my age, would have been, I suppose my own parents would have passed on to me is get a bank account, get a credit union account, get an impost account. So all those accounts yield zero. Right?
Yeah.
So if you have a child that's 6 months old or just born, and you know that your €140 is coming in from the state that is not means tested and is not taxed, what should I be doing with that money? If you do nothing with the money, what happens is it gets consumed into budget into what's called thin air. So it's spent somewhere, could be on a takeaway, could be on a holiday, it's spent on or petrol, okay? But if you plan properly and say, listen, that money is set aside because I want that money to be there at 18 when they either go to third level where it's going to be in DIT, Trinity, UCD, wherever it's going to be, or abroad. But I know with certainty I'm going to need to have probably to go to 40 grand to send them to a 3-year or 4-year degree because the registration fees, the books, transport, all that sort of stuff. So if I don't plan now, it's an 18-year time frame, it has to come somewhere. It's either going to come from current cash flow, which is your salary. Hopefully your salary's increased over time. It's going to come from either your savings you built up, maybe inheritance, or a loan. Okay, so if you don't plan properly, the easiest way to do it is mentally account for that €140 disappearing from your bank account into an educational fund. What's that going to do for you? Well, by in 18 years' time, it's going to first of all outperform deposit because it's going to be consistently invested in a fund that's going to perform over an 18-year period. Okay, so once you invest for more than 10 years, the likelihood of you losing money is zero. Okay, so ultimately, the longer you stay alive or longer stay in the game and don't tinker with things, you're going to have a positive outcome. But more importantly is that it's going to take pressure off you as a family if you have a second child arrive or third child arrive. Okay, ultimately they're going to need this money at different periods. So as you know, we build financial plans from scratch. We present it back to people, and it shows people what their breadline is, what they need to have every month. It shows when their mortgage is going to be cleared off, or events that might happen, like you might get inheritance. Well, what would you do with inheritance? Would you pay down debt? Would you invest it? All these things. But there's never a right answer that I can give on a podcast or in a format like this, because everyone's circumstances are different. Everyone's age are different. Everyone's perception or understanding of retirement is different. People get sick along the way. People get let go from their jobs. People in football could have a career-ending injury. Didn't plan for it. 23 years of age. What happens? You get your contract paid up. Where do you go now? Don't have an education. So it's just making sure that you understand, like football, you have a plan, and the plan is robust enough to be able to help you have the future you deserve versus living month to month. And I suppose that's why I said Financial Planning Matters up. It's an educational platform to be able to buy in to the cycle of financial planning life and making sure you're doing the right things for yourself versus, listen, anyone can go to a bank and anyone can go into it and buy them online also. But like sometimes the product is what people sell you. For me, it's about you have to educate people to show them what they need to consider. What they need to consider they come back to you and say, what's the solution? And the solution leads to the product. It's very different to just leading with a product. And like my time in Irish Life, amazing. Worked with the 10 great years there. Went on to AIB for 4 years. And I just saw it was just people being sold stuff. And not necessarily the right stuff, but just being sold stuff. And unfortunately, that just leads to a negative outcome because the client, I disappear from the branch because I moved to a different branch. The client's looking for me because a financial plan and financial planning and investing is a journey where you're going to mortgage or you're getting a credit card or car loan. It's a transaction.
Yeah.
There are two very different instruments and very different mindsets. So when I set the business up, the fear at the start of the business was, where am I going to go and find these people? But that's actually the opposite. It's the opposite. I need to get more people in to help me to actually, because there's so many people come back to you. And they said to the podcast we did a number of weeks ago with Kieran about the importance of using the €140 for your children's education to put it somewhere that's going to grow. Like we get over 500 DMs over that sort of stuff, and people, but it's back to, you probably don't see it because you're in your 20s, but from my parents it was, bank account, make sure you have one. Credit union, you can get a loan at credit union, so make sure you put money in the credit union. Unpost saving stamps, and all these savings certs. Yeah. A great place to go. But probably the last 2 years, people have opened their eyes and go, inflation. If your money doesn't keep up with the inflation, it's dwindling away in an account, which means the purchasing power of that money in a year or 5 years or 10 years time is not going to be the same. And I suppose that's my job, is to educate people first. Not everyone's going to come back to us, but they will come back to us at some point in time because they'll resonate with them at different points of their life.
One of our mottos in Training 1-to-1 is play long-term games with long-term people. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to partner with Financial Planning Matters. Although planning for your future is a long-term game, you need to do it with long-term people. Even me personally, with working with Niall and the team, there's no hope in hell I would have been able to actually plan my financial future without the assistance of Financial Planning Matters. So please, I'm reaching out to you today. If you are experiencing the same things that I was experiencing, like struggling to create an emergency fund, struggling to actually understand what investing is, struggling to even understand how to get money from a bank account into an investment fund, tiny things specific to your use case, even other examples like trying to plan for college. My advice to you now is to reach out to the Financial Planning Matters team to make sure you take control of your financial future, whatever that is to you. You can do this at www.fpms.ie to reach out to the team today. Yeah, that's amazing information, and it's so important to condense it. That's the beautiful thing about, I suppose, our shared platform, like your platform and our platform, is that, and as you alluded to, content is so digestible from different sources that the ability to actually clip things and actually present people information that is easily condensed is such a privilege. In relation to financial planning matters specifically, let's say, for example, I know that every single journey is different, no doubt. But what would be the steps for somebody, let's say, for example, a parent of a 2-child family, and they were inquiring about, let's say, their child benefit, what to do with that, and even just empowering their full financial wellness. What does the first step in the journey look like with working with your team?
I suppose a lot of our stuff that would come to us would be, or people who come to us would be sort of, they've seen or heard of us through either LinkedIn, or we do a lot of partnerships. So they'd probably go on our site, they'd book in for maybe what's called a discovery call. So ultimately, discovery call, we'd have one of the girls in the office would send out like a sort of it's a 30 minutes sort of session for them, not for me, but more importantly is access to, like, I'm a certified financial planner, I've got 20 years experience, but for me it's about just listening to people. So understanding, because they come to us and it's not like going trip to a dentist or a doctor. Like, there's a big taboo in Ireland and probably the world about talking about money, because people, as I said to you earlier on, people think you need to have a lot of money to engage with someone like myself. So I'm trying to break down the barriers by saying that we're not going to charge you. First of all, I don't believe in charging someone €150 or €200 for a consultation, because most people in this space, in the financial planner space, not the sales space, but the financial planner space, sort of sell that because they just want to probably have a certain persona client. For me, it's about probably getting people the opportunity for 30 minutes to sort of challenge me about where they're at in life and where they think they should consider about what they should be doing with what they have available. So the best thing would be to give you an example. So like, I'd have, last week I probably did 16 sort of discovery calls. They're half an hour each, but like, I'd know within 2 minutes what they need to consider, which might necessarily be what they thought they were coming on the call for, because they've given us 6 or 7 sort of pieces of information. I'll know probably within 5 minutes from talking to them if they're actually bought into actually changing their habits. And the most important thing I always say to people is, my job is not to tell you to spend less money. My job is just to make better decisions so you have more money to be able to deploy it in the right way. So ultimately, you'd have a lot of people who come to me and say, I've got money here, or I've got an old pension here, and I'd be saying to you, okay, so what's the 3 most important things to you? And one would be, oh, I heard about the podcast, or I heard this. So education, okay. So that's 18-year time frame. Okay, is there anything in between an 18-year time frame could impact that plan? Well, okay, what do you mean? And I was saying, okay, so benefits and work. Have you got benefits and work? What do you mean benefits and work? Have you got, and obviously we all go to work for a salary, but ultimately, do you have debt and service? What's that? Okay, have you got income protection? What's that? Have you got illness cover? What's that? Mortgage protection. It's not the thing the bank told me to take out as part of the mortgage. Yeah, because you wouldn't have got the mortgage if you hadn't got mortgage protection. Oh, yeah, I have that, yeah. Okay, so that actually covers the bank. That doesn't cover you. It's there. It's owned by the bank. You pay the money. So like, it's sort of, again, it's 95% of people have no idea where they're coming to us, but will leave with a couple of nuggets. And I said to him is, I'm not going to chase you to build a plan for you. So the plan is only as robust as the information you give us, but you haven't got the information yet. So you need to go off, get the information. We'll invite you to our client portal. We it's a completely digital operation to run, no paper, because I make it easy for people, because the clientele we have is between the age of 20 and maybe mid 40s, and then we've retired people, but they want, they don't want bits of paper sent out to them to sign and send it back, because it slows down the process. So for me, it's like, you need to go away and find out what benefits you can work, and probably 2 or 3 objectives important to you, because I can't build you a robust financial plan if I don't have enough of the picture. So it's back to the jigsaw. If I don't have the 3 pieces of the jigsaw at the bottom, which is the foundation, unfortunately, it's going to be very, very hard, because it's built on sand. So that they get that. But I always say, finishing up the call, is, if you don't put the work in, I'm not putting the work in. So why should I put the work in? This is your plan, your life. But I assure you, if you come back to me, we will build a financial plan. People say to me, well, how do you get paid? I said, because what happens is we build a plan. The plan is their plan, not my plan. But they'll come back to you and say, Niall, something happened. I haven't had a second child or a third child. Can you do me a favour? Can you update the plan? Yeah, go back into our portal, change it, and we'll recalibrate the plan for you. So we're building a client journey of 20, 30 years of relationship. It's not back to my days in AIB and Irish Life. Like, it was just new people all the time. So for me, as we've 350 personal clients, we have about 7 or 8 large companies or corporates that we deal with from my days of of Irish life where they came back to me over a period of time.
Yeah, network.
But ultimately is making sure that they understand the seriousness of what we do. Like if you went to a doctor for advice on surgery, or if your health in relation to a 1-to-1 program to develop your finishing. Why do you come? Because the opportunities, if I do well, I might get a contract, or I might get, looked at somewhere else. So for me, it's my job is like saying to them, my job is to help you. I can only help you if you tell me what the issues are or what's important to you. Because I can tell you 10 things to consider, but if you don't think they're serious enough for you to put in place, well, then I'm wasting my time, and then you're wasting my time. So, like, I say that in a soft way, but to be fair, I get a lot of people who put the effort in, and they're the people I want to deal with, because they're the people I want to help, because they're the people who actually want to take control of their future, and more importantly, want to plan for their family's future.
Do you ever see the outcomes change? So they obviously come into you, they tell you X, Y, Z. You set the outcome for them. You've got the financial plan. You were saying earlier about like the road veering and whatnot towards that outcome. Does the outcome ever shift? Yeah,
that's a great question, because we have lots of people who will come to us and say on the application, because the state pension now is 66. I'll give you, this is the easy example, is people will say to you, I'm retiring 66, and then you just come on. I'd come on the call with them at the discovery call and say, why you want to retire at 66? I said, well, that's the state pension. I said, well, would you not like to retire early? I'd love to retire early. Okay, so I said, so what would be the ideal time you'd like to retire? And people say, well, I'd love to retire maybe when the kids are younger, or maybe do a 3-day week or a 5-day week. So I go back to a 5-day week from a 3-day week. So the plan will be built based on what they've told us. But my job is to say, well, would you not like to work till maybe 55 or 50? Yeah, I would. Okay, well then we need to bring the plan back in what's called a what if scenario. So what if means, what if you did this? This will bring back the plan. So I'll give you another example. A mortgage. People just take out a mortgage in Ireland at the moment for the longest period possible, because it's the amount they qualify for more, because they're a payment capacity. Okay? So ultimately you say to people, why have you got the mortgage for 35 years? Would you not like to maybe clear off the mortgage in 25 years? Means you're mortgage free by 50, means you can start doing maybe travel around the world, or if your kids go abroad, or going like once in a lifetime holidays. So again, people don't really know what their plan is, but I've the experience to know and say, you shouldn't really have a mortgage 65. If you can afford it, you come into money, come to me. It's not always necessarily investing. It could be paying down debt. It could be look after the kids. It could be set up maybe inheritance tax plans. There's loads of different things. So the plan will change, but ultimately the two main things would be retire early and clear off my mortgage early. Because they're the kind of two things that the fear is, Jesus, I'm going to have this hanging over me for such a long period of time, and I won't be able to live until I pay it off. So when you give people sort of a map or a route to saying 15 years early by overpaying it by what? 200-300 euro a month. Now, some people are in that position. Unfortunately, some people aren't in that position. But that plan, is, as you said to me, like that can change. You could come into money. You could win the lotto. You could inherit the money. Loads of different happens. And it's not necessarily people come to me and say, I have 100 grand to invest. It's not just me saying, I have this shiny product over here that you should go into. It's like, okay, tell me a bit about your situation. Have you got any PCP? Have you got a car loan? Have you got any credit cards? Have you got a mortgage? What rate is it? Have you ever considered moving or switching it? So sometimes people come to me and they say, Jesus, I came for 100 grand investment, and he's told me to do all this, which actually doesn't generate any income from him. But ultimately, what it does is it for them, it gives them clarity about what they should be doing, and they're in a far better position financially. What happens? People then we recommend us as part of it, and that's what we do, because it's not about just taking money off people and never seeing us again. It has to be a journey, and the journey sometimes is the best advice is clear off debt and then come back to me when it's done.
Yeah, and this is the reason why I went back to the notes, is because that just triggered another Morgan Housel quote, which was money's greatest intrinsic value, money's greatest intrinsic value, and this cannot be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time, which is what you said there in relation to paying off a mortgage, being able to retire early, and money really is the vehicle to that. So what you're building from there, let's say someone comes in with like 100k and they want to invest it, but you're thinking about, let's say, clearing debt, retiring early, and these are really good conversations, and something that you planted in my head earlier as well. Let's say, for example, someone has cleared debt, they are now in a position to actually build wealth. Would you consider, let's say, investing and positioning yourself in high return, let's say index funds, as like a non-negotiable for building wealth, or where's your position on investing at the moment?
It's probably back to what I said earlier on. Is investing for me is probably the easiest part of the job is giving people the solution. The hardest part of the job is trying to manage their expectations.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always say is if your people are telling you, or you go to some source and they're telling you to get you 10, 20, 12, 15% return, like they're talking through the hat. For me, my job is to make sure that the first most important thing is that it keeps up with inflation. So inflation at the moment is less than 5%, right? So, but that was zero for the guts of 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the easy thing to do, right? But ultimately now is the money needs to be invested in a tax advantageous way. Okay. So ultimately, a lot of people won't understand the pension. So if you're in a large company or a large, like say, let's just give you an example, a pharmaceutical company, you will have thousands of people in a group scheme for a pension, right? People's understanding of what they should be considering and what they're doing, for me, is it's the problem with these schemes is they don't get any point of contact. So we like the whole sort of message here is financial well-being and wellness, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as I said to you, back to the bank analogy is you go in there, you're dealing with one set of products, one provider, and maybe one advisor. Okay, the advisor's job there is to sell you something.
Yeah.
The same when you go to a pharmaceutical company or a tech company, they've got a large pension scheme. It's the managing fees are cheap, and the reason they're cheap is for a reason, because you don't see anyone. You don't get advice. There's no plan. There's no bespoke advice. And ultimately, what I would say to people, if they were coming to me with money and they had money, I'd be saying to you, are you taking advantages of the tax rules to be able to enhance your future? So again, it's back to an AVC. So you know what an AVC is. When for people who probably don't know what an AVC is, it's an additional voluntary contribution to your pension. Should you be doing them later in life? Absolutely, because you get tax relief on them, and it'll fast forward, or back to what Morgan was asking me about, the what if scenario, pushing retirement out. No, it's pulling it back in. So it's giving you control of your time and retiring on your terms versus having to wait for a state pension, going down to the post office and queuing to give you 13 grand a year. So that's the pension that you provide enhances on top of the 13 grand, but you shouldn't be reliant on the government to give you an income at retirement, because that's the sign of someone who hasn't taken control of their life over a very long period of time. So again, it's back to people who come to us, they'll have money, but I will go through a certain set of, I suppose, scenarios, because it's important I know where their head's at and what they're doing with their money, so they can make sure they're making the right decision. And sometimes when they have their plan in place, yes, you can have a conversation about you've 100,000 here, or you've got 2 or 3 properties. Is it the right thing to invest money and to create a bigger tax bill? Probably not. So I say, have you got 2 or 3 kids? I have. Have you heard about a small gift exemption? What the hell is that? I've read about it in the Sunday Business Post, but it wasn't relevant to me 10 years ago because I didn't have the money. Okay, well, that's something you should be considering. Okay, well, we can actually show you what you should be doing, which is transfer of wealth to your next of kin in a tax efficient manner, versus me just taking 100,000 off them. And okay, the fund grows, but it's just creating more problems because there's more tax in the future for their family and when they transfer the wealth. So again, it's back to decisions at the right time in life for the right reasons. And that's, for me, the reason why I have a business is because people trust what we do. And as I said to you, like, I'm dealing with people who have sued the HSE and have kids who need the money to last them 50 years because they'll never be self-sufficient. I have people who've sold businesses. I have people who sold stock for large amounts of money in certain tech companies. I have people who won the lotto. So people's needs are different, but when they have their set of circumstances sorted, their objectives, I map the plan around what their objective is and what they should be considering.
Yeah, that's a great answer, because I think, as you said, and it's a really good point you made about consuming content, because that's definitely something that I experienced in COVID. Was even like, let's say, even with the GameStop and all that sort of stuff with the individual stocks, and that's the first point of contact that people saw with investing, for example. So people going straight to Revolut, have to straight away put X amount in GameStop, for example, and making sure they ride the wave of whatever the next trend is. And I think that's such an important note. Sometimes, like,
short term, isn't it?
Yeah, but like, even on that as well, just the people just have different needs. Like, we don't have kids, for example. Like, so our goals and responsibilities with our money are much different versus like what other people have. And I think that's the big thing that I really resonated there, Niall, is that, like, if you go to a single institution, let's say with low management fees, it's very difficult to adjust from where you were at that moment in time for the transaction. Whereas when you work with people like you, for example, you're only a WhatsApp away or text away from the team. And when circumstances do change, the agility to actually shift and move your strategy is very efficient. And that's key. Even just for peace of mind, I think that's key.
Yeah, but I'd also say is the really important part of the journey is usually the first meeting and the first plan we build.
Yeah.
It's because people need to understand what the time frames. So it's back to retirement is a 20, 30 year time frame. Educational fund is an 18-year time frame or shorter if you want to go second level private. For someone like yourself who say you said you came to me and said I'd love to buy a house. 5-7 years. I'm not really pressed on the 5 or 7 years, but I'd just like to be in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I said to you, that starts with you committing a certain amount of money to get to the repayment. So there's two ways you can do it. You can save an amount of money, or you give me a goal and say, I want 20,000 or 30,000 in 5 years' time. What do I need putting in to get to where I want to be? And ultimately then, for me, is hammering home, and the most important part of my delivery on a letter of suitability that we do would be the fund is the fund, based on your time horizon, your appetite to risk, and the questions you answered, right?
Yeah.
You should not be changing the fund based on what you read, what you see, or what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, you're in that fund based on me standing over it, you understanding what it was from day one, and ultimately, back to the coach player here, you're the player because you're the one who's funding it. I'm a coach on the sideline saying, a year later down the road, you're going, the fund's not doing too well. Hold on. It's like a snowball going down a hill. You'd snowball in the first couple of months or the first couple of minutes is tiny, but if you keep persisting, the snowball gets bigger, and it's easier to push down the hill because it gets bigger. It's the same with an investment account, or it's the same with a retirement account. Is once you have the right sort of would you say the right persona, so the right appetite and attitude to understanding the time horizon, the rest of it take care of itself. That's just a fact. But people try to sell products that offer you loads of great returns and all that, but there is no magic bullet. The time in the market is key. Timing the market is absolutely impossible. Even people with Bloomberg terminals over in Wall Street lose money. The reason they lose money is because the more transactions you make, the higher the risk of losing money. So it's back to the analogy is the Vanguards of this world and the BlackRocks of this world, which are the biggest asset managers, is they have ETFs, which is an exchange traded fund, which is basically you're buying the market. So we would do that. People say, well, your management fee is more expensive than what the bank are doing or than my pension fund. Yeah, but you're comparing apples and oranges here. Because apples and apples would be they're giving you a service, they're coming back to you, they're building a plan. You can challenge them on what fund you're in. You're probably in a fund that they put you in based on your age. Is that suitable for you? It's probably something to grow your fund because you shouldn't be in that fund 35 years from retirement. But again, it's educating. So back to the reason why I sponsor the podcast is because you educate people. They come to you to enhance their sporting ability. For me, I guarantee if they come to me, is we enhance their financial well-being. So they go hand in hand. And that's why people say to me, geez, you're doing a lot of sponsorships and partnerships with people. Like, what's the message is kind of lost? I said, well, the reason I align myself, like, give you one example. So Shauna Bannon is a girl we sponsor or partner with her. She was training for the UFC. She's an incredible athlete, incredibly determined and incredibly successful in such a different way to the way I was brought up, in the sense that she has a goal. The goal was to be in the UFC, incredibly difficult to get to. Obviously she's going on the back of other people that have got there, so kind of opened the door to Irish people competing. But just to watch that woman training, to raising she's one child, and just the commitment that's involved, has an amazing manager who does a lot in the background for her, to be able to give her the opportunity to do the training camps away, and generating sort of sponsorship or partnerships to be able to afford her the opportunity. For me, that was like something that resonated with me, because young family, challenged in a different way, but incredibly determined to get to where I want to be. And then you've got people like, I'm very fortunate, like I said to you, Stephen's a good friend of mine in Shamrock Rovers. He has had, I suppose, a couple of difficult things happen over the last couple of years in his own personal life, but I met him 20 years ago about him wanting to say, I don't want to retire at 65. Footballers don't retire at 65. You plan properly. I want to have the retirement maybe at 50. What do I need to do to get to where I want to be? But ultimately, it's gone a step further, because ultimately what he wants to do is look after, educate the first team so they can make better decisions for themselves. Whether they do the business with me or they do the business with someone else, they might have someone in their own circle, but ultimately, so they take control, because the careers are much shorter than a career like my career, your career, or like that, because the human capital, or obviously your body, is basically what's on the line in relation to be able to generate an income. So then to take another step further is probably looking at maybe the TY program in Shamrock Rovers in relation to doing a module or a couple of blocks on the importance of, if you get to England, amazing. If you get to Italy, amazing. If you get to the first team in Shamrock Rovers, amazing. Whatever it's going to be is just make good decisions like you do on the pitch, like you do with your body, like you do in training, with your finances when the money comes in. And it's back to what I said earlier on, it doesn't have to be 3,000-5,000 a week or a month. It starts with good habits from an early age.
Yeah, such a great message. It's so relevant to football, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Everything is. Sport is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Resonates with everything. What are the... It's probably generic enough, but what are the key mistakes you see everyone make?
First mistake, going to a bank. The first mistake. The reason why I'd say that is because banks and the way they work is selling products, right? And ultimately, I've been on both sides of the fence. And being honest with you, one of the main reasons I left is when I started a thing called the CFP, a sort of a financial planner. It was all about holistic advice, building plans, looking after people, challenging people to make better decisions. Went on to my masters, opened up my eyes to negotiation and, things that, like, suppose are sort of the fluffy side of things, psychology and stuff like that. And understand, like, obviously you've had some great people on before me about talking about different sides or outside the game that you need to consider and need to manage, like your mindset and all that stuff. But ultimately is when people are sold stuff, it usually leads to frustrations because there's no accountability on one side. The way they're treated, their experience, and that filters into when they deal with somebody else. Because if you have bad experience in one industry, it usually means you either put the shutters down and say, listen, I don't really want it because I've had a bad experience. So that's probably the first thing, is because you don't get the full exposure to somebody who's actually on your side of the table, because they're on a different side of the table, because they're in a job to sell you something. People would say that's easy for you to say because you run your own business, but ultimately I have access to all the insurers and all the platforms in Ireland. If people do business with me or people don't do business with me, I would say to you is it's on me if they don't, because ultimately I haven't educated them properly or they don't buy into what we do.
Yeah,
but ultimately it has to be educating them first, to give them the solution for their set of circumstances, for them to make the decision. And we're kind of lucky is, like, I worked with 2 or 3 good guys in Irish Life that are probably the leaders in our industry in relation to financial planning. Great content, have done really well, but like they have set the platform for people like myself who came in to be able to sort of take the baton and go my route. Some people have 10,000 clients. For me, I've got 300 clients. I have a different type of approach. I'm in the space of trying to help professionals and their family. Obviously I deal with, as I said to you, football clubs. I deal with like people who own businesses and their staff. So I'm not trying to be a 600 or 700 man operation. We've 9 staff. We've got an incredibly good team that I'm obviously able to do what I'm doing because of the people who support me in the back. And that's just on the financial planning side. We have obviously Beat the Bank, which is like takes a huge amount of our time, but an incredible co-founder with me who has the smarts in relation to the tech side. I'm the sort of sales, marketing and the network connection side. So it works so well. So like the businesses for us work well because of the people. So, but again, you sort of try to attract the people that you can help, and we can't help everyone because, again, it's back to human capital. Don't have enough people, but more importantly is you can't help everyone because they have to help themselves first before they get to us. And sometimes that's the discovery calls is about getting to know someone and saying, listen, I don't think you're the right for us at this point in time because you're probably a couple of years away because you have to get your own house in order before we can help you. But like it's not a message we can't help you, go somewhere else. It's like these are the 3 or 4 things you need to go away and think about, like simple things like emergency fund, as you mentioned, Gary, or a budget. What's a budget? How does it work? Because if you haven't got control of what's happening every month, unfortunately I can't really help you until you've sort of got your own house in order.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Would you say overall, like even like going to the bank, that'd be the first thing that I would have thought of without like a lack of education? I know that you said there about like even having a module in, let's say, the TY program that Shamrock Rovers run. Like if I didn't meet you, I would have no education on financial wellness, and that's being real. And even like we're in the content game and we consume a lot of content, but I haven't seen anything that as specific, matter to the point and trustworthy. But do you feel Ireland as a whole is poor at financial wellness?
Yeah, I'd say it's the responsibility on companies to educate customers of theirs isn't like the people digest it differently now, where previously it was brochures and all that sort of stuff. So for me, there's kind of an onus on the banks. I would say to you is like the Bank of Ireland run a huge campaign, right? Baz, great fella, right, about financial well-being, right? But there's no financial well-being. It's really just about come in, talk to your advisor because you're going to buy something. There's no plan built. There's no get to know you, because ultimately I know the model. The model is you have people in the branches, with all due respect to them, doing a great job, but they're there to sell. Okay? It's very different to a relationship model where you're trying to build a journey with someone.
It's a different product, yeah.
Okay, so ultimately you can go that route, and people will go that route because they know the route. As you said, you have to sort of either stumble upon somebody who knows somebody that's done it or has had a good experience, because someone letting you into their financial life can be a really difficult thing for a lot of people. But like what we try to do is trying to break down the barriers and say, listen, we're actually just normal people. We're just trying to help you. There's loads of content on our Instagram page. I do lots of blogs about lots of different things. There's all the free content. Come back to us if you need us, because there's something that you need help with. And I assure you, there will be something people need to help you at some stage of life. I would like to think that they remember, Jesus, he didn't badger me, didn't chase me for stuff, didn't force me to do stuff, didn't force me to make decisions on the spot, gave me the information, gave me the time, gave me the breathing space. Allowed me to read and come back and challenge about things I didn't understand. And ultimately, to be honest with you, Gary, that's why I have a business. That's why we don't really advertise, because we don't really need to advertise, because ultimately we've aligned ourselves with good people early on that sort of get what we do and ultimately trust us to do what we do because we say we're going to do. We deliver. Like it's not rocket science. Like, and I said to you, like the beat the bank model, for example, is why that we're so successful is the banks aligned themselves with two insurers. So just to give you a sort of a background is Irish Life have the market cornered in relation to financial advice through the banking network. So if you walk into an AIB, a permanent TSB, an EBS, used to be Ulster as well, and KBC, they're gone. You were dealing with an Irish Life advisor. That's what you were dealing with, okay? Yeah. You go to Bank of Ireland, you're dealing with a New Ireland advisor, okay? So ultimately, the reason why I set up the company, one, because the name's catchy, which is good, right? But two, is people's perception or experience with a bank is very different to 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the branch manager was the pillar of society that was able to sign off on a mortgage and was able to do favours for you, okay? That doesn't happen anymore. Everything is digitised. Everything is centralised, and as a result, there's no relationships.
Agreed.
Okay,
strongly.
So ultimately, what I sort of said at the start when I left, I said there's a couple of bugbears with people, and one was mortgages. Mortgage is the most stressful transaction. I know you guys haven't been through it, right? I've been through it twice. It's the most stressful transaction you will ever go through. Doesn't need to be that. But ultimately it's because it's kind of broken in lots of ways. But on the insurance side of things, I knew with certainty, having been involved for 4 years, is dragging people into a branch to sign a form when they're in two parts of Dublin in the middle of mad traffic at 4 o'clock in the day. I'll never forget one appointment we had. I was based in Artane. There was a lady coming from Leopardstown over to sign a form, and her husband was coming from town. The branch closed at 4. They were there till 5. It was for a mortgage, and it was for mortgage protection. Irish Life, the insurer, would not accept a digital signature back then. Okay, you might think this is mad, right? But they didn't back before COVID, right? So ultimately, what happened as a result was two people, highly strung, coming in, but being sold the mortgage protection plan, wrapped in with the mortgage at the very end of the process. What happened? One of them actually had to have a medical as part of their drawdown, so it wasn't automatically accepted because of the size of the mortgage. Absolutely went nuclear because it sort of slowed down the process of drawdown, which frustrated about them. So ultimately, they got the mortgage in, but it's probably 3 or 4 weeks later than they should have got it, which meant is either the rates change or there's pressure on the estate agent to manage the relationship with the vendor, because there's a number of pieces of the jigsaw that has to happen at the same time. So when I left and COVID happened, obviously they had the insurance industry had to change. can't have the set in the ways of scanning email and stuff and signing stuff. Had to be digital signature. Had to be ink versus digital. So we sort of spotted that. We said, we build a process where we'll give people the keys to the castle in the sense of you do it online yourself, like Revolut, but it's different. You're not investing money here. You're getting the same product, but actually a better product. You're doing all the work, and we're going to guarantee it's probably close to 40% cheaper in the bank. And people are going, but it has to be different. No, it's actually better, right? The reason why it's better is because we're stripping out all the salespeople or the people that need to be paid in the chain of events. We're getting you underwritten in a much quicker fashion. You're not giving your personal details to us. It goes directly into the underwriter and decisions in 2 hours. Like literally in the first year, we had 1,000 plans sold because people just want information so they can make a decision, and it's a transaction. So mortgage protection is a transaction. It's not advice. It's like you give the bank mortgage protection to get the mortgage, and then you come to us for a plan. So what we try and do is when someone buys a mortgage protection with us, we say, listen, you now need to understand is you need to have income protection. You need to find out if you have debt and service. You need to find out what benefits even work, because you have the longest transaction, the most expensive transaction, and the biggest financial commitment. You may have kids in the next 10 years' time. You need to plan. You need us in your corner, and don't go back to the bank. So ultimately, it's the name sells itself, right? But more importantly is the experience for the customer is seamless. So we give 200 5-star Trustpilot reviews. We've got 100 Google star reviews. We've got so many people come back to us. But ultimately, it's because you're giving people a solution to a problem that shouldn't be there in the first place, but was there because the industry created, not the person created. But again, it's back to educating people. People think when they come to us for a mortgage protection plan, it's just like buying something off the shelf. It's not. It's based on your health. It's based on your age. It's based on the term of the mortgage. It's based on the size of the mortgage. So those things, again, it's again making sure they apply earlier on the process, so we can manage if there's an element in their health. We can manage if they're on tablets. We can manage if their BMI isn't great, so that we can say, listen, you need to understand that the reasons why a decision is made is not because it's personal, but it's because of the following reasons. But unfortunately, the education isn't there when I go to a bank. It's nearly wrapped in with the mortgage, and people feel obliged as if the bank's doing them a favour. The bank's not doing a favour. The bank is charging you more, and you're effectively going to pay them back probably twice what you're earning from them. So it's just trying to extrapolate that product out. And we built income protection as a model. We built life term insurance, which is an insurance product to protect your family. There's EV insurance, there's electric vehicle insurance coming on soon, and we're going to have house insurance, travel insurance. But the platform is going to be, again, people at different stages of life will need different things. Going traveling to Australia, you need travel insurance. If you're going if you're starting your own business, you might need income protection. But again, it's given to them when they need it, all the information on the site, and we have a 24-hour, not a chatbot, it's live people. It's like 6 of us that run it, and ultimately ask questions to beat the band so you make a decision.
Look, amazing. And it's only going to get stronger as people get educated, and that's really what.
Well, people want education, like
no doubt.
But I would say is right, and like people laugh at this. Like over 80% of our clients are female. Right?
Really?
Yeah, because what happens invariably is males sit in the fence, or males procrastinate. Females, they want the information, they'll go away, but they'll come back. They always come back, and they'll come back with a minimum 4 or 5 queries. That's great, because when people come back to those queries, they think, I'm sorry for bothering you. I love that, because they're challenging to understand that they can't make a decision until they know they're comfortable, one, about what they're actually signing up for, but more important, the people they're dealing with. So ultimately, give them the information, go away, and do me a favour, come back, and I hope you have loads of questions, because you should have loads of questions, because this is an important stage of life, and you need to align yourself with the right people. And going back, I said to you, this isn't about bashing the banks here. I worked there. I was on that side of the fence, but just that's why I set my own business up, because there's a better way of doing things, and people want a better experience.
Big time. And 70 to 80% of B2C customers already have 90% of their decision made before they go to the supplier. And that's because of the content that people are pushing. Even for your educational content, and let's say like you might not even touch that customer in 12 months, but they're already consuming your content in the back end. And then when the time is right and they have that last killer question, and then you actually have that, face to the name of what your content has been producing, then bang, you have a relationship for life. And yeah, it's an absolute key process.
But like, I'll give you an example. In 3 years, we went from 0 followers to 23,000 followers. And I would say predominantly to do with, we do a question box every Sunday, and the question box is literally ask me anything. And to be honest with you, if I don't have the answer, I'll get the answer for you. But ultimately, what I always say to people is on the financial planning matter side, because it's advice-based service, it's kind of different, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately is, if I don't have the answer, so like we have a lot of people, especially this time of the year, when there's like, vesting stocks from say pharmaceutical companies or tech companies, they don't know where to go. They've got a Slack channel and work, and they're going, does anyone know a good accountant or a tax advisor or a planner? Right? And invariably, sometimes a lot of people end up with us. And I'm saying to them, that's actually a tax advisor. So I'm aligned like with 2 good solicitors, 2 good accountants, a really good tax
We
advisor.
know that well.
So you obviously know from the same accountant, but it's having a trusted network of people that ultimately understand what the client is looking for and giving them the solution. And for me, it's like, well, I'm a financial planner and I'm able to give people different things at different stages. And it's the same with coaching. You're helping people to be better than the day that they joined, adding value to them at the end of the season, saying, did you enjoy it and did you improve? That's the 2 things with coaching. Same with financial plan. You bought into what you said. Did we deliver? And what's the outcome? Is it positive? Absolutely. But it's the same thing. But just, it's again, the first step is the hardest part, is taking the first step. So it's back to, like, you don't have to think that you need millions or to engage with somebody. Just align yourself with a good person that gets what you're looking to do, and you trust them. And how do you trust them? By challenging them, by meeting them, by engaging, by consuming their content, by educating yourself first. So that's one really important thing I'd say is, like, educating yourself is really important. There's lots of content out there, but there's lots of ways. Like, there's a QFA exam. I would definitely say for someone who's maybe in full-time football, right, in maybe 19, 20, or just finished their degree, there's a thing called a QFA. You can do a part-time online. It's Qualified Financial Advisor. Most people in the bank will have that when you meet them in relation to that, right? It's the minimum industry standard to advise a client, but it's an incredible accreditation, because you get such a round experience about what you be considering. So there's modules like mortgage and loans, there's modules on financial planning, there's a module on retirement. So again, they're things that are all will resonate with you at some point in time in your life, and more importantly is, it's going to add value to your own personal life. You know what I mean? Versus you do a degree or an undergrad sometimes in arts, or you do something that you might after 4 or 3 years go, actually don't want to do that. Like, I did engineering but actually prefer finance. So this will give you something that's actually relevant to your life at all stages of your life.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, of course you could do a QFA part-time. And if I'm not mistaken, then even just on that topic, you're not just a QFA, there's also the CFP as well, but that's a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
So we had a good fun with this, because a lot of people that go into the banks, for example, will have QFA, and like people say that, well, the level of advice is different. I would say to you, well, a QFA person, with all due respect, as I have a QFA, right, it's the minimum standard industry, right? If you're serious about building wealth, you don't go to a QFA. It's a good starting point, right? But they have the basic knowledge, might have the experience, might be grandfather, it means you might be in the industry for 20, 30 years and didn't have the exams, they have the experience. But like, if the person is serious about their career, about their development, and they're staying in the industry, like after 5 years, I usually say to you, 5 years industry standard, you'd go on to what's called do a graduate diploma in financial planning. So through an Institute of Bankers or through the LIA. And then ultimately from that, you'd go on and do the CFP. CFP is a worldwide recognized sort of standard where you would build financial plans for people. And again, it's like involves tax, it involves, different junctures and what if scenarios I mentioned earlier on. And then you go on to do a master's. I would say to you is, while they're all different exams, it's not about the exam, it's the person is bought into enhancing their sort of learning, and their learning should be transferred to you, because as you get older, your wealth should increase. Things will happen. You might come into inheritance. You need to know the person who is with you on the same side table is advising you correctly, and more importantly has experience to do that. So again, it's not about beating down people who just have a QFA, I say, but if you want to be serious about your career, like you are, like as football or whatever it's going to be, is you do more than the basics. And like that's why for me, and I said to you before the podcast, I went up and watched Shamrock Rovers first team training last week, and the definition of professionalism there is incredible. It's frightening, because I just didn't realise the amount of work that's put in the background from both the staff and the players. But it's just down to one word: accountability. And I was stood there for 2 hours watching the session run itself nearly, but just players managing the session and the coaches facilitating, because there's a certain standard up there, and that's why they're champions, and that's why it's probably the benchmark for me for what I'm seeing. haven't been involved there for 4 or 5 years because I went to UCD, and then I took a break because I was trying to grow 2 businesses, and coaching the League
you're
of
a
Ireland is 4 days a week, and Leicester Celtic on top of that with an under 10s team is kind of and I'm trying to get around to golfing once a year, but it's just it opened my eyes to, I suppose, Stephen let me in to watch one of the sessions, stood there for 2 hours, and for me, like, I'd love to be a coach. I'd love to have that passion for it, but obviously a passion for my own business. But like, it's just incredible to watch because, again, it's accountability, and it's back to what we said about you give your players accountability, and based on the good environment you create. Same with me. I give my team the accountability is based on them taking control of what we've asked them to do. So we all have a role to play, and once you do it properly, it leads to a positive outcome.
Big time. The synergy between Financial Planning Matters, Beat the Bank, and everything that you stand for has the same synergy as what Training 1-to-1 has, and in my opinion, it has the same synergy that any person that's really looking to educate themselves and do better with. It's all matched together, isn't it? Like, it's all just the exact same message. So I think really on that concluding note, I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, for everything that you've done for me, and obviously Morgan and all of the Training 1-to-1 staff and family. And then for sponsoring the podcast, because I think even just from the conversation there, the way that you've discussed both your services, yourself, and just the general, like, that's just free content for everybody now. Like, if it just resonates with a couple of people.
Yeah, well, I've taken a fair few leaves. I said to you, jigsaw from different people. If you guys are around a long time building a lot of content, my own son goes to Training 1-to-1. The environment that's set there is, again, professional learning environment. He loves going. When he misses it because we can't go, there's an issue in the house because of the people that he meets there. But again, it's align yourself with good people, because it's a growth mindset to be better than you were when before you didn't join 1-to-1. That's why the training's good. That's why people go on to what they call it, to good careers. And there's plenty of people that you've coached. I saw a couple of them before I went over and saw Sinclair play against Gavin Bazunu at Christmas time. Them boys, I see them on your videos 6-7 months ago. They don't do the basics. They put in the effort. And when does the effort happen? Happens off season when people are taking their foot off the gas. And that's why they're the best they do. And that's why you guys are the best to do. And that's why I'm aspiring to be market leader, what we do. We're still only 5 years in, but ultimately we've helped a lot of people, and again, enjoy the journey.
Yeah, beautiful, man.
Beautiful.
Thanks for your time, though. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no worries.